segment on Let's Talk Football, the Roundtable. Diversity with Delilah. This week, Delilah's got Bobby Marshall. Yeah. Not to be mistaken with Bobby Douglas, the white quarterback.
Let's not mistake that. Ron Spencer,
who I had here earlier.
It's all right. It's all right. Sorry, that was just I'm still laughing at that. So Bobby Marshall, basically, months ago, I talked to you about Fritz Pollard, right? And so Bobby Marshall was a duo in that kind of introduction of the first two black NFL players to play in the NFL. And so Bobby Marshall was that second kind of player, and so that's I kind of wanted to talk about him and make sure like he was spotlighted. So they did talk about Fritz Pollard like months ago during Diversity with Delilah. Anyway, so Bobby Marshall, he is a Minnesota boy. Basically, it's kind of crazy because when you think about it, because it's like there's like the 1920s. It is like this is kind of like the 1920s, kind of turn of the century type of stuff. And so his maternal grandmother was a former slave and civil rights pioneer, right? And so there's all these different connections. He was also the nephew of Alonzo Herndon, who apparently is the founder and president of an Atlanta life insurance company.
Oh, wow.
One of the most successful black-owned insurance businesses in the nation at that time. But just because someone in your family is wealthy doesn't mean they'll take care of you. So when Marshall's mother passed away, he actually had to start working as a janitor to support his siblings. So that's kind of his early childhood there. Even though he's best known for playing football, he actually also played baseball, track, boxing, ice hockey, wrestling. I feel like it's a common denominator anytime we talk about a lot of these older athletes from the turn of the century. You find out that they've played multiple sports.
Yeah.
When Marshall played baseball for the Minneapolis Central High School, he played base for 3 years. Central was a champion of Twin Cities high schools for Marshall's junior and senior years, 1900, 1901. So he also excelled in baseball. He also played baseball when he went to the University of Minnesota. He played first base there for 2 years, helping the university win the Western Conference Championship in 1905. Marshall played end for the football team of the University of Minnesota from 1904 to 1906. Marshall kicked a 48-yard field goal to beat the University of Chicago 4-2. Field goals counted as 4 points at the in this era.
Yeah.
He was the first. Yeah, he was the first African. Yeah, exactly, 4 points, right? He was the first African American to play football in the Western Conference, and later this became known as the Big Ten. He graduated in 1907 and played with Minneapolis Pro teams, the Deans, and the Marines from 1920 through 24. He played in the National Football League with the Rhode Island Independents and the Minneapolis Marines. And like I said, along with Fritz Pollard, he was one of the first two African Americans to actually play in what would become the NFL in its beginnings. As a black man at the time, living in a Minnesota town with a population of less than 1% that was non-white. So, Bobby Marshall was one of those guys that everybody just had to kind of look at, right? Because he definitely looked different than everybody else. But then he caught people's attention because of his athletic abilities. He was the first black person to letter in what would become the Big Ten Conference. The two-time All-American end led Minnesota football to a 27-2 record over the 1904-1906 seasons. He was also an all-conference baseball player, as I said, varsity sprinter, boxer, hockey player. I mean, just crazy. All while studying law, by the way, at the university.
All right. I like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Study some law.
Marshall continued to compile many firsts following his graduation. As I said, he was one of the first African Americans to play professional football and was the first African American, along with Fritz, to again play in one city of the NFL. He played for the Rock Island Independents in the league's first game, but he was 40. He was 40 in 1920 when he actually went to play football, right? And so, he played football for Rock Island in the league's first game at the age of 40, as I said. He was also the first African-American to play semi-professional hockey. Marshall became Minnesota's first black high school coach when he got the job at Minneapolis Central, where he excelled as a student athlete prior. So, again, a lot of firsts there, even after football and baseball and all this stuff. Marshall also played in the Negro League and a semi-pro baseball, including time with the St. Paul Colored Gophers and the Chicago Leland Giants. Okay. Outside of sports, he practiced law, as I said, because he went to school for that, and held an appointment to the state grain department for 39 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He drifted in and out of various leagues for decades, playing football until he was 56.
Ooh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Tom
about
Brady.
That, Tom Brady, right. Tom Brady, right. Old.
And
don't tell Tom Brady that now he's going to want to play at least 50 years.
And he played baseball and softball until he was in his 60s. So basically, despite his, the significance he brought to kind of football and sports in general in Minnesota and in the nation, he wasn't inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame until 1971. He's still, they have it posthumously, you know how they kind of do that sometimes. So he's still not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame yet.
Okay.
And so now people are talking about him just like they're talking about Pollard, because again, these two guys kind of got shuffled and lost in history. And so, so these are the two first African-American players to play for what is the NFL. So now you know the duo, the second part of that duo. The first was Chris Pollard, and now you have Bobby Marshall.
Sure.
Bobby
playing for Minnesota.
Now we know.
Not the Minnesota Vikings. They didn't exist yet.
Right. Not the Vikings.
Dig it. All right. Thank you very much for that, Delilah. Bobby Marshall.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to move on. Ladies and gentlemen, hey, we just got past week 11, like we said.
Oh, we did.
It's getting to that time. It's getting cold outside. The football is getting nitty.